Hello and welcome. Today, I'd like to do a tribute to the great Martin Lewis. Martin Lewis. Martin Lewis was born on September 1st, 1947 in Northampton, England. He crossed over August 26, 2022. As I record this video, it is mid-December 2022. So we just lost him a few months ago at the age of 74. Oh, he was too young. He was too young. Just recently, prior to August, I was corresponding with another magician. And he was asking me about a problem he was having with his magic, talking to me about a performance that he wanted to do. And Martin Lewis came immediately to mind, and I looked up a video on YouTube, shared it with him, and it was a breakthrough. It was a breakthrough. And he hadn't heard of Martin Lewis before. So he discovered somebody that he really resonated with, and it gave a boost to his magic. So Martin Lewis probably has had an influence on your magic, if you don't already know this, in ways that you may not appreciate or know. But I want to try to give you some of that today. He was born in 1947, son of Eric Lewis. Eric Lewis. So what we have here is a little magical dynasty, I think. Eric Lewis was a great. Martin Lewis was a great. Eric Lewis founded Magikraft Studios in 1934. Martin would later assume ownership of that. And I believe, I'm not certain, but I believe his daughter is doing it today. So Magikraft Studio continues. Eric Lewis built the first Zig Zag illusion from the Robert Harbin plans for Robert Harbin. So, and you can see that. You can see Robert Harbin's performance of it. So Eric Lewis built the first Zig Zag. I think that's amazing. By the way, the Zig Zag is arguably the most practical divided lady or sawing effect you can ever do. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a practical. You can do it surrounded. That's why Robert Harbin invented it, because he wanted to do a disembodied princess illusion, but he wanted to do it center stage, fully surrounded, so he invented the Zig Zag. And Eric Lewis built it for him. 1968, Martin Lewis immigrates to the United States. He's in his 20s at this point. He goes to the Magic Castle and he sees Albert Goshman performing at the Magic Castle. And Albert Goshman, rather than his dad, which, I don't know, Albert Goshman becomes his inspiration. He became the house magician at Earthquake McGoon's Magic Cellar in San Francisco. Now I'm talking about Martin Lewis. 1973, he invented and marketed the Sidewalk Shuffle. 1973. The Sidewalk Shuffle was really what put him on the world stage in terms of our attention as magicians. The Sidewalk Shuffle has found its way into countless repertoires since it was introduced in 1973. In 1985, his father, Eric Lewis, publishes this book, Martin's Miracles, about his son's magic, Martin Lewis's magic. Not to digress here, but Eric Lewis published two other books, A Choice of Miracles and The Crowning Miracles. These are both about Eric Lewis's, that would be Martin's dad, Eric Lewis's magic in these books. And they are gems. They are gems. Let me tell you a little bit about a little bit of I guess it was a paragraph or a side note. I'm not sure what it was, but Eric Lewis was talking about, and I think every local magician experiences this. He's doing magic locally. He's doing birthday parties. He's doing all the local stuff. And if you're performing, and David Copperfield has said this as well, if you're performing in a geographic area, and the same audiences are going to see you again and again and again, you have some obligation to present new material. Now, if you're a touring magician who's touring the world, you can do the same act over and over again. But if you're local, you need to be churning out some material, and that's what these books are about. I remember performing a birthday party show. And there were lots of kids at the show and lots of parents at the show. And the show went incredibly well. And so I had parents coming up to me after the show, asking for my card, asking for my information. I got their information. So I knew there was going to be some shows coming out of it. Well, the very next week, I get a call to do a show. It's in an entirely different area. So I assumed, never assume, you know what assume spells, right? I assumed that it was a different crowd. So I get to the show, and it's the same crowds, the same parents, it's the same kids, and I did the same show. And they were disappointed. The parents came up to me and said, well, we thought you were going to do some different material. So just to prove the point that if you're performing in a local area, you need to have a couple of different acts. Martin Lewis himself, he gets a job working on a cruise ship. And they tell him right up front, they say, look, if you're going to work the cruise ship, you're going to be on the ship for a while, the same audiences are going to see you need 3 different half-hour acts. That's 90 minutes of solid material. Not just 90 minutes of material, but 3 30-minute acts. So it has to have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. The act has to be a theatrical piece. So Martin Lewis takes his entire Tarbell series with him on the cruise ship. And he's inventing magic based on the Tarbell series while he's on the cruise ship. Point being, it's nice to hone an act, but if you're performing locally or the audience is going to come back and see you again and again, you got to have that material ready and ready to go. So 1985, Martin's Miracles, written by his dad, Eric Lewis. He invents, in 1983, he invents a trick called Cardiographic. You might remember this from a David Copperfield special, right? David Copperfield has a pad, large pad. He has a card freely selected. He draws a card box on the pad, and he begins to do this motion with the pad, and you see a card rise out of the card box, and it's the selected card. Well, David tears that page off and hands it to the spectator. Stunning effect, invented by Martin Lewis. Cardiographic, originally published in MUM, Mum Magazine, July 1983. Updated for Martin's Miracles, published in 1985. David Copperfield put it in his tour in 1989. And he premiered it on his television special in 1990. That's when everybody, I remember David Copperfield specials. And David Copperfield, remember Misled? He did Misled. Then he did the Bill Switch. He did the Crazy Man's Handcuffs. They became classics in magicians' repertoires because he did them on his special. Same with Cardiographic. 1990, he does it in a special. Throughout 1990 into 1994, David's continuing to perform Martin Lewis material. In 1989, Martin Lewis markets an effect called Technicolor Prediction, which also became a classic. He has, Martin Lewis performed on cruise ships, club dates, the Magic Castle. He was a regular at the Magic Castle. In 2001, the Academy of Magical Arts names him Parlor Magician of the Year. Now, and I want to make sure I get the date correct on this. 2022. Okay, 2022, he publishes this book, Making Magic by Martin Lewis. The complete plans for Cardiographic and all of its spin-offs are in here, and much, much more. This is this is a monumental work. If you're looking to pick up just one of the books on this table, Making Magic. It's still available. Don't miss it. It's a fantastic book. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this tribute to Martin Lewis. I hope that if you didn't already know who he was, that I've inspired you to go out and investigate and maybe pick up some of his work as well. By the way, many of his effects are available. His card rise, which it's you have a houlette suspended by ribbons, one ribbon held by a spectator, you're holding the other ribbon, the card rises. I love that. It's in my repertoire. I love that effect. So, and I actually spoke to Martin Lewis about it, about his inspiration, where he got the inspiration from, and it's really Jim Steinmeier, I believe, who I think the Jim Steinmeier is maybe, I'm not sure who invented the effect, but Martin Lewis markets that, as well as a number of other. Technicolor Prediction is still marketed, still available. So please take a look. Thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. Please comment down below. I love your comments. Have a great day. See you next time.